Coming from London, the brand new revised Peter Ross Show.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the show. Today we're talking to Status Quo, Francis Rossi and Rick Parfitt, all about their brand new album and film, BULA QUO. Francis is first. Welcome along, Francis Rossi of Status Quo. Welcome, Francis. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good, actually. The sun is shining. There's people coming to the studio to do some stuff, and I'm quite chipper. I've had my second cup of coffee, which is why I'm speaking so fast. Other than that, it's all quite good. We've got two new dogs who are causing me a lot of pain, but there we are.
What are they called?
Maggie and Nancy. They're two little crosses between Westie and Jack Russell. I've got another Westie, and I've got a golden retriever that's dying with a huge tumour on her derriere, which is lovely pictures, isn't it, create?
I had the same thing.
What, the derriere? You had a tumour on your derriere?
Yeah. It's just, I'm standing up at the moment. That's why I've had that done. But whose idea was it to go to Fiji and make a film like this? Because it's a ridiculous idea, filming in the sun.
It was all ridiculous. All the things that come to us over the years. Yeah. When the first we were talking to Bruce, the guy from Coronation Street, used to come and see us at Manchester, and I happened to say to him, we were doing a photograph, I said, why can't you get us in your job and we come down, stand there, have a drink or something, you know. It's just banter. And he said, well, I can do that. I'm sure they love it. And then a couple of years later, along comes a script. I'm thinking, oh, no, I can't do this. We did it. As we got there, they said to us, you're going to have this stunt coordinator, this person, to show you how to fight. I thought, but fighting on television is different than anywhere else. And then as we started with this guy, he said to Rick and I, he said, I'd love to make a film with you too. And over the years, those kind of things are said. And you're kind of, oh, yeah, great. And inside you're thinking, idiot. Fiji, and I enjoyed it immensely. We play ourselves, and I don't think it's quite as true to us as we could have been, because we're going for the child areas between 5 and 10 years old. It really appeals to them. So I think we could have roughed it up a little bit, but maybe that'll be for if there's any more movies. Yeah, but it was great in Fiji. Loved it.
BULA QUO.
It's such a weird thing. You know when the Spanish everywhere is they go hola. Yeah. I could have sworn everybody in Fiji was going hola. I thought, oh, they're Spanish.
Did you take any acting lessons to play yourself or not?
No, that was the whole thing. I suddenly got really nervous. As I said to you, things come to us over the years. And you say, yeah, all right, we'll have a go. When people are very confident in you, I'm terrible at being pushed outside my comfort zone. But once I've done it, it's just, I really enjoyed doing it. But the fact they said you can play yourself, so Rick and I would go over our conversations and try and talk as best we could, like we do. However, as I said to you, I think there are some mild swear words in there would be more natural to us if we couldn't use the major ones and so on. But no, there was no coaching other than, it's like if I say to you now, look, I'd like you to walk over there, turn around, look at me, smile, and say so-and-so. You go, all right, and I get used to do it, and I say, well, look, try again, but can you da-da-da-da? You do it, and I go, fabulous, move on, let's do the next. Oh, that's good. So it's like this young boy in me goes, oh, I did it good, Daddy, thank you. So it's like making an album. You keep your head down and then suddenly turn around. I wonder what it's actually like. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, well, looking at the film, Craig Fairbrand Samaras, who
Great.
who plays your manager.
Yeah.
Do you know, I wonder if that's their real manager. I thought he played it very well.
A lot of people said that, but it's the cliched version of the manager. Like that, we got the cliched version of the roadies. They call them roadies, but they're not. They're technicians these days. So I think he played it well for how people envisage these rock and roll managers. But he's nothing like our manager. Our manager's much more polite, much more mild-mannered than that.
Did you get any...
much bigger belly?
Yeah, they always are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Did you get any help from John Lovett's, as far as skill acting and things like that?
The best thing about John was his schedule was such that he came in at a certain point, so we had to do all of his scenes when he was there. But he's got that face that you're either going to laugh at as soon as you see it, or if he keeps it dead straight, he's got that whoop. He could be quite threatening. But we were doing one scene in the night shoot about the where we look at the little doll that's the blow-up doll.
Oh yeah,
that's about the funniest thing I got. It's a blow-up doll. No, it's a bomb. And I learned there too that in any scene we look at on TV, there are probably 12 to 17 people around you that you can't see in the shot, right?
Yeah.
And we kept doing this shot, because we're not very good at this, at learning the entire script. I now realise you should learn the entire script. So it becomes more conversational than waiting to hear your cue and jumping in on it. You see, so we're doing this scene, all of a sudden we heard,
right,
and it's exactly what happened just then. That sudden silence, like everybody's, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So people thought, was that my cue? Was that my cue? And of course, everyone started giggling, and that took us probably an hour and a half because of doing like a 45-second clip piece. God. So he was good like that, and it was learning stuff from his face that he can say. We were doing the scene with the guns down in the Russian roulette thing. And I kept looking at his face, and I'd laugh. You do that so well, and then he'd just look at you. I thought, oh, he's serious. So I think he's one of those comedians that can do that. If he really went into more serious stuff other than this kind of what we just did, he could be quite threatening. And I find that with quite a few comedians, that when they put their real deadpan, oops. Yeah. They look really quite threatening. So he was a pleasure to be with.
Let me take you back to when you signed with Pie Records all those years ago. Take your memory right back there to the 60s. You had 5 years with Pie. You had some good hits with them. I mean, you started off... of course, Rick wasn't with you initially when you started. No. And how did you bump into him?
We met at Butlins that's when I met my first wife too. On 29th of May 1965 was the day we arrived there, because that's my birthday. Right. I met my first wife there, her sister, and a few hours later I met Rick, and we got to know Rick quite well. And it wasn't until we'd got back to England we then got the record deal, and it was by 67. There was things about my voice, because I can't really sing, and our manager, I think this is probably Alan Lancaster and our manager at the time, had discussed it, and he said, well, let's ask Rick. He's very good looking. He's got that thing that you look at Rick. And they just said, well, would you mind if he joined? I mean, I don't know why I didn't take the hump at the time, but I didn't, because I quite liked him, and we became very friendly, all of us, and it was just part of the way the history developed. But he came in because of his voice, which is kind of weird, because then mine took off with that, and he doesn't sing like that. He has this cabaret voice, which again he hates me saying, but I like that in his voice. It's the true voice, whereas now he tries to do the which I just don't see it as Rick at all.
So what was the key change then, obviously, when Rick came aboard and then you went over to Vertigo? What was
first off, remember, we recorded Matchstick Men. I'm not quite sure if Rick's on it or not. He was in the room and stuff, but then Matchstick Men came out, became a hit. He sang on it. Right. It became a hit. And then there was Ice in the Sun that started to get a real... we were kind of losing it there. You could see, because we were being shown what to wear, what to say, how to stand. It was all like that. And all the people around us, as the popularity waned, all the people that were around us in the business sort of drifted somewhat. And understandably, that's not a complaint. And we started to do more of the stuff that we did when we first met Rick in the middle 60s. And we were trying to get work, basically. And we were in a club somewhere in Germany and heard someone doing Roadhouse Blues. And we saw this couple dancing, these Germans dancing. When two people dance together, they'd obviously... And that kind of got us going into the shuffle thing and the semi-blues thing that we do. And it just kind of developed from there, and we all grew hair and became much more scruffy, I suppose, because it was anything to rebel against the initial showbiz thing we'd been taught. However, that is still with us, like that kind of consummate professional, you know. We will do whatever it takes, really, to keep the band alive. And sometimes I think guys in bands get a little, my music, you know, and I won't prostitute myself. Yes, you will. But we do. That's what show business is about. And some people want to say it's not show business. Well, stay at home then.
Yeah, well,
and we don't.
You went from the psychedelic Traffic name and all of that over to. I think really I suppose you were reborn as Quo, and I suppose you fell into being just you, didn't you? In 1968.
Much more like it, I think, as well. And as I said, we were so directed by people what to play on stage, what to do on stage, and I'd written Matchstick Men, which was kind of following other people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I did, I think it was In My Chair, it was like a slow bluesy shuffle that started to our identity, and we began to really enjoy shuffles. I can't help, you know, I'd love to say that I was influenced by various black musicians from way back, but I never was. It was the white guys over here who were influenced by the black that I got my influence of blues from, so it's not kosher, so to speak.
Marty Wilde being one of them.
Yeah. Marty, I can see him in his underpants. I don't know, we went to see him somewhere. He was next door, we were playing, and there he is in his shirt, socks and underpants. It's just a strange vision. But yes, Marty did the plectrum across the top of the piano for the zing, like in the sun.
Was Justin Hayward playing with him then?
I don't think so.
No.
Not what do you mean, in the dressing room?
No, I mean,
no.
You know, on the stage, yeah.
You walked into that one, didn't you?
You are a naughty boy.
You walked into that one. No, he wasn't, not that I know of.
No.
We had Kim out on tour with us the other year, and of course Marty turned up occasionally, and we were always, you know, to us it was Marty Wilde, particularly when I was 18 or 19. And he was so... And again, that's why I think where Rick and I have learnt some of our professionalism is that you meet someone like that, and he was such a nice man. Whether he is genuine or not, I don't know, but to us he really was, and each time we meet him he was. Subsequently, people like the Tremolos that we met, who were kind of seen as uncool, and they were the nicest people we would meet, wherever we bumped into them.
Yeah.
You know, because generally you're used to, we were being a young band, and people had that... that we all do to each other, whereas those people always made us feel... that we were okay and we fit in.
Going back to being on tour, and you were talking about Mexico, did you find the heat was a bother for you?
In Mexico, the heat?
Yeah.
The pollution, and the last time we went there, we weren't there as long this time, which was quite good. Although, with that 24 or 30-odd million or whatever it is in Mexico City, the pollution is just ridiculous. And, of course, you're 7,000 feet above thingy level.
Yeah.
So, and you can hear that on the recorded stuff. You don't hear it on the night or feel it necessarily on the night, other than you can't get a deep enough breath. But the heat in itself wasn't that bad this time. It was just the pollution, and it slows you right down.
You don't go out and take oxygen, do you?
We had oxygen on stage with us. We always carry oxygen since this middle 70s, when if the venues get too hot, you can't concentrate. Not enough oxygen gets to the brain.
Yeah.
People think it's because you're going to, you physically can't do it. It's not that. It's getting the oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
And once you do that, it's like, it's a kick in. And the same happened over there when... Even Matthew Letley, he's very unlike him, went for oxygen because your lungs can't get the air in. But I love Mexican food. I love the breakfast. I had such fabulous breakfasts. I could write home about it. It's fantastic.
Let me take you back to Cornwall, 1970, when you were sitting somewhere writing Caroline.
Oh, yeah.
On a napkin. How did that come about?
Me and Bob were in a writing phase, and we went on a holiday with our respective wives. I remember Bob's wife was pregnant. I think mine was pregnant with my second. It's very funny, Bob. We would sit on this beach in the day, and she'd be sat in the wheelchair, in the deck chair, you know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she'd say, "Bob, could you move that sun?" So he'd get her chair and he'd move her around a little bit like that, and we'd carry on sitting there talking and trying to write a lyric, and Bob, and he'd move her again. And about the third or fourth time in this particular day, he just stood up around the beach. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Young, pioneer in childbirth. Thank you." And so the entire beach applauded, and she got over that. But we were doing the lyric. We'd got the idea of the song, and it was in a shuffle. If you want to turn me on to or anything you really, instead of da. And we got to this lyric, and it said, "Take my hand, together we can rock and roll." I said, "Bob, we can't say that." I said, "It's such a hackneyed line. You can't say that anymore." And it was 71, 70. And subsequently, if you think how many records and references, like people go, "I love rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll." Talk about saying the same thing over and over. And it just kind of worked. The track just kind of worked. Lots of girls have said to me, well, you're singing that about me. So, well, how could I? Didn't know you. We've just done there's another song for the movie, because the girl in the movie, Laura Aikman, is playing a girl called Caroline in it.
Yeah.
And when we turn up at we're looking for a girl called Caroline, so we have a song called Looking for a Girl Called Caroline. Seems weird to go 40-odd years and write another song with Caroline in it, but there you go.
Well, the BULA album...
It's funny that, isn't it, BULA?
I know. Was it an easy title to find?
We've done the documentary, which is Hello Quo, and when we got to doing into Fiji, there was another mooted title, I can't remember what, and it's like in Spain where everybody goes, hola, everywhere you go, every time you pass someone, they go, BULA, and I kept thinking they were going, hola, and they were going, BULA, and then one day I'd already had the song BULA QUO, an idea for it, because I'd done it for something else previously, and some guy went, BULA, BULA, I thought, that's it, there it is. And obviously the managers and everybody else thought BULA QUO is it looks good. It's a bit Fijian and it's a bit Quo, and it's saying hello Quo again. And then when I got the BULA QUO, we were away. Then it started to work.
Does it make a difference when you have a song and it goes to number one? I mean, you just recently had a top 10 album. Does it make a difference when you have a song or an album that goes to number one, or do you? It
used to make a lot of difference financially, particularly. Now we were saying this yesterday because we're on a promo thing at the moment, that there are no pieces to be sold. You don't get anywhere near the airplay you used to, because radio's diversified so much. Yeah. But it still freaks us out. Yes, it got in the chart. Oh, yes, it's in. But in terms of it's a fraction of what it used to be, but still a joy when it happens. So that's what I said to you about the insecure little show off, or the fact that it reaffirms that yes, you're successful.
Were you upset when Radio 1 refused to play your songs?
At first, in a way, but the main issue, which we'd done a show for them, they called up in this time of year and we weren't particularly working, and the manager said, the BBC would like you to do a ballad. I said, no thanks. I said, we're not really. He said, well, never mind. And they came back a few, well, they're very, very keen. Yeah, not really interested. And then they said, well, they've done a vote with their audiences, and you're the band they'd most like to see, and Delamitri. I always call them Delamitri. And we did the show to 125,000 people, including with Delamitri, and subsequently Delamitri have gone. Okay. I shut them down, and then the thing with us. So before we went to that show, we said, "Well, there's this issue. You decide you're going to play our records when it suits you." And they said, "Well, no problem then." But and subsequently said to us, "Well, we'll play your songs when they get in the chart." We thought, "Well,
you need to play them before.
How are they going to get in the chart?" Yeah. So anyway, we did the thing, and then as soon as we'd done that show, the airplay stopped again. So I said to our manager, "That's a bit off, you know." He said, "Well, that's their policy now." I said, "Fine, okay. Can you get the money, please?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We drew 125,000 people and played for nothing. Yeah. Or want the money for the show, no problem. But give us don't lead us in, say, do us a free show because we love you to death, and then change your mind." I understand what they had their own issues. And they looked at that. He said, "It's not going to work. We need something that's going to." So he said, "We're going to sue Radio 1 for not playing your records." So don't be silly. But it was a great angle. And would we have done it again? No. But that's the way it was going to be anyway.
Were you nervous when you got your OBE?
No, I thought, I don't think people like us should get stuff like that. However, once I realised that if a paramedic from Leeds who's done wonderful things, he's not going to get Sky News come round or CNN come round the beat, which is what happened as soon as we got it. So we maintain or keep the profile of the honours system, which I think, okay, is great. Whether I'm a royalist or not, when we went to meet the Queen, I've met her a few times. She's a fantastic woman. You can't away when you believe in that blue blood stuff, which I don't. However, what she does for our country in the promo is similar to what we're doing now. She is brilliant. No two ways about it. She is brilliant.
I was asking Paul Gambaccini the other day who was the most famous person that he just spoke to. And he'd just done a question and answer thing for you in Leicester Square, I think it was.
Oh, did he tell you about that? No,
Yeah, he did.
Like
but the funny thing was, you won't believe this, Francis, the funny thing was that he then turned around and he said about you and Rick, and then he said, and Nelson Mandela.
Wow, good company,
Well,
huh?
I thought so. I mean, that was a hell of a compliment, wasn't it?
It really is, yeah.
If you could only play one guitar, just one guitar out of all the guitars that you have, which one would it be?
People aren't going to like this, but very recently I had a status made. They made me a guitar, the carbon fibre, the people who make John Edwards basses. And he had one. I said, ask him to make me one, and I have it in grey. And it's the best guitar I've ever had. I really love it, and I would play that because it's so consistent, and I can have it replaced, and it's exactly the same with conventional guitars. And you know, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I like the wood and the rose and this and that," and I think a lot of that is jerking off. You can. It's like when they make a signature series. You think you're going to buy a signature, Eric Clapton signature. You'll sound like Eric Clapton. No, you won't. You sound like yourself. You will always be. It's the person. I don't understand why or how, but if I pick up any guitar, it's going to sound like I do. So this idea that the magic green Telecaster. And I've done so many moodies with that over the year where I've played different guitars and I've very rarely used that on record. And people say, oh, I love the sound of that old green telly, don't you? I go, oh, yeah, never be without it. So it's one of those showbiz things. It's just over there in front of me, this Status guitar. It's one-piece carbon fibre. It's fantastic.
What is the album that you've made that's been successful that you're most proud of?
What was the one before last? Not BULA QUO. BULA QUO. No, what were we?
Pro Quo.
There's one before that.
Hello? No, 1973. Hello.
Yeah, it was a jump, wasn't it?
Ooh.
Anyway, the one before that, I don't think there's any one out. In Search of the Fourth Chord. And whilst I thought the title was extremely funny, there were some lovely tracks on there. I think some of my best writing personally was on there. I did like Quid Pro Quo, but I figured it was a bit one-faceted, and it starts to like we were trying to make an AC/DC album, and a lot of people seem to think that's what Quo were all about, just that one thing. And if you mention the Hello album, you know in that there's at least this light and shade in that. But the last one was, as you said, extremely well received, and better than any album for a long time.
And your favourite track from BULA QUO then?
Probably BULA QUO because it's different, and but I really do like Matthew's song on there, Running Inside My Head.
Action film, you are the star of the action film, of course with Rick as well, BULA QUO. When is it released?
I think it's July 1st we're going to the premiere, so if everybody comes along and sees it and tell us what they think, really, I'm ready to take the criticism for it, but we need people to see it because, like an album, I don't know until people that feedback comes. So please come along and see it.
Well, Francis, I must admit I watched it and I enjoyed it, and thank you very much. You've been most gracious today.
Thank you, sir.
One step forward and two steps back.
Stay tuned for more chat. I'll be talking to Rick Parfitt in just a second.
It's never easy, it's a heavy load.
So we welcome Rick Parfitt, Status Quo. Hello, Rick.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. This is a really interesting film. I really enjoyed it, actually, funnily enough.
Well, I'm pleased.
I was watching it and I was thinking, you know, this reminds me of the old days when you used to have a chuckle and a good laugh, and there wasn't any swearing in it. There's some good tunes in it.
Well, the thing about it is, when we got the original script, which was about 7 years ago, it was called Care Factor Zero, and it was going to be shot in Bangkok, and it was a very dark story, and it was a bit cheesy, and it was a bit nasty, so we kind of let it drift onto the back burner because the script wasn't very, very good, and it kind of went away, and consequently 7 years later this new script arrived, and oh God, here we go again. Notwithstanding the fact that I really wanted to do a movie, but it's got to be the right one, obviously. one reads this script and you see that, tramps are being pulled in by this organisation to play Russian roulette with a view to selling their organs on the black market, And I thought, God, this is quite interesting. And then, you think then of filming it in Fiji, and then you add Francis and me into the whole plot. And it becomes quite a caper and quite a colourful adventure.
Well,
so on that premise, we went, let's go ahead, let's do it.
So Fiji was a bit of a test, and it wasn't Croydon or anywhere like that.
Well, I mean, I'd never been to Fiji, and I was quite keen to go and see it and experience it as well, and we went out there with the. We didn't really know whether we could act or not. I mean, having seen Coronation Street, I thought, oh, God, cringeworthy. You know.
Well, I thought you were good in 2005.
Well, I mean, I guess it's looking at yourself. You know, you're always self-critical, and other people go, "No, you look fine, and you acted fine," and oh, God, I didn't. What blah blah blah. But we got out there, and we're surrounded by Craig Fairbrass and John Lovett.
Yeah, he was funny, wasn't he?
Oh, brilliant. So dry.
Yeah.
So dry.
Face.
He had some great stories to tell, and we had a lot of laughs with him. We generally had a lot of laughs through the movie. It was incredibly funny to do, and surrounded by a lot of good people who were helping us along, and it was a most enjoyable experience. And I think the film's all right, seeing as we did it for sixpence, as it were, in this, in the climate nowadays. To do a film for £1 million, £1.5 million is just unheard of, really.
Is that what you did it for?
Yeah.
Wow.
Shot the whole thing for lock, stock, and barrel for that sort of money.
When it came through to me, I had lots of things to do, and I thought I'll watch it. So I went out in the garden for a while, and then I thought, no, I'm going to go and watch it now. And, like it was a chore. This is going to be a compliment, actually, Rick. I know I'm leading up to it, but when I sat down and started to watch it, had a glass of wine with me.
Yeah.
I chuckled. I laughed. The next day I thought, I want to watch that again.
Oh, well, that's great. That's great. Well, I did the acid test on myself because I live down in Spain, and I have a cinema at my house down there, and I thought, well, when I first got it, I thought, well, I'll invite a couple of the neighbours over, and we'll have a couple of glasses of wine, and I'll see what they think of it. So there was sort of 6 or 8 of us all sitting down there in my cinema, and I put it on, and I was really interested to see what and do you know what? They loved it.
Yeah.
They really liked it, and I thought, thank God for that.
I know.
And my kids out there, I've got twins, they're 5 years old, and do you know what? They love it.
Yeah.
Whether it's seeing Daddy on screen, I don't know. I think that's kind of fascinating. But, they see me on the telly and all sorts. I think they genuinely, especially the underwater scene, they just love it when Daddy's... I'm a superhero indoors now, beating people up and fighting off sharks, So Daddy's a bit of a hero indoors at the moment.
In that scene where you're both swimming underwater, obviously... I was laughing because I was thinking I would have liked to have been in the studio for the dubbing session on that.
Yeah.
I bet you had a few
laughs.
laughs.
I tell you what we did. We put the top of a bottle in our mouths. Just a plain water, top of a water bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel an absolute... you feel very stupid, but it kind of works.
Yeah. Was it Stuart St. Paul who had the idea of the film, who was the producer? It was him, was it?
Yeah.
And did you find that you were involved in the casting or not?
No, not at all.
No?
Oh, no, nothing. Just purely the acting. Well, if you can call it acting, let's say being ourselves.
Yeah.
But surrounded, with Craig Fairbrass as well, who I now see regularly down in Spain. He's become a mate. And Laura Aikman,
Yes.
It's really, really good cast. We had a thoroughly good time, and can't wait to do it again. Fingers crossed.
Let's talk a little bit about the double album that's coming out. What is your favourite? I asked Francis this. What's your favourite track on that album?
Well, I have to say, at the moment, my favourite track is one I wrote called "Go Go Go." I remember when I was writing it, I wasn't thinking quo. Funnily enough, I was thinking screen. I was thinking action. I was thinking escaping. I was thinking running away, and how we're going to get out of this. And I was thinking all those things, and it kind of gives you a different mindset. And it's funny now because when I listen to the soundtrack album, I can't quite get it. It's half the deal for me.
Right.
When I watch the film and then I put the music on that album to the film,
it works, doesn't it?
Or some of it anyway.
Yeah.
Then to me, it's the real deal.
Going back when you were growing up, who was the people that were influencing you?
Well, in the very first instance, I mean, it was Cliff Richard and the Shadows.
Right.
I was that kid sitting in school, not listening to what I was being taught, because I got a guitar by the time I was 10. By the time I was 11, I could play it. And I would sit there thinking, well, I want to be in show business. And, you know, I loved Lonnie Donegan and I loved Cliff and the Shadows. And that was what was really responsible for making me play the guitar was Hank and Bruce, you know. And I knew what I wanted to do. So my last couple of years at school, I just sat staring out the window thinking, well, how am I going to do this when I leave school? And luckily enough, I secured a job at a holiday camp 6 weeks after I left school. I was sitting in a bar in a holiday camp playing my guitar. So things started off really well for me. You know, I already sort of achieved what I wanted to do, which was being out playing my guitar to people. And then my aspirations rose to, you know, I wanted to expand this, and I formed a trio, and we went on tour in Europe then, doing all the American air bases. And once again, I found myself, well, I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm you know. And then we did a summer season at Butlins where I met up with the Spectres, who were this great little rock and roll band. And I thought, God, I want some of that. So the trio I was with, I got a bit frustrated with that then and thought, well, you know, I want to move upwards. So the trio disbanded, and I found myself doing nothing for a while. I became a baker's roundsman, you know, and I was not really very happy about that. And then I got the call from the band, who I'd met at Butlins, said, would you like to join? We need an extra voice in the band. So, yeah, I'll join. So, and that was that. And that happened in 1967, 2 years after meeting them. They asked me to join. So I joined in 67. Matchstick Men was in 68. And here we are.
Did your life change completely when you had the #1 album in 73, Hello?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, life had expanded, and you found yourself with all these luxuries in life that you never ever really thought that you were going to have. You know, cars and lovely houses, even at that stage, you know.
Right.
And of course, you know, people adoring you on stage and giving you this amazing reaction through the 70s. It was just incredible. As we were breaking and as we were getting bigger, the reactions were getting more and more astounding, you know, and it was just a magical time where we seemed to be getting bigger by the hour, you know, let alone the day or the week or the year. We were just getting bigger all the time.
I had lunch with Russ Ballard and Bob Henrit on Monday.
Yeah.
And Bob was saying that he toured with Roger through the 70s, part of the 70s, and he was saying about Keith Moon. And he said, you know, took a lot of thought to throw the televisions out the window. And I said, how do you mean? He said, no. What he used to do is he used to make sure that the cable was long enough so when they threw it out the window, it was still on when it hit the pavement. Now, have you ever done anything like that?
Well, I've never actually thrown a television out of a window.
Right.
No,
So what have you done then?
Well, we've driven cars into lakes, and we've been fairly silly on the road. You know, there's been floors that have been fairly badly wrecked because after the show every night we would have what we called Blackie's Bar.
Right.
And this were two road managers we had with us called the Black Brothers, and boy, oh boy, they could drink, and they made drinks up.
Yeah, they were professionals.
They were called Long Throws and Blue Skies, Crash Barriers, and somewhere documented in the Hello Quo documentary, I think you can see the menu for these drinks. And, oh, God, every night. I mean, we used to, as I said to you earlier, we used to steal the plants from downstairs, and the road crew being the road crew, there was a piano down there, they'd get it in the lift, and up it'd go to our floor. And we had Mike's place, which was Francis's room, where all the wong was being smoked. You had Magic Fingertips Club, which was my room, where everybody was massaging everybody, shall we say. And then you had Bob's Bar and Disco, which was Bob Young's our tour manager at the time. And everybody was just going fucking mad. All the doors were taken off their hinges. And somehow, in those days, you'd get away with it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine now? I mean, you'd have the police around, and the management would be up in arms.
Something just springs to mind on that. When you were doing all this, let's go back to 1999, and you had a full orchestra.
Oh, the Proms.
Was it just the Proms?
Yeah. That was the Proms in Antwerp.
All right.
And we did, I don't know, we did about 3 weeks in Antwerp every night at 18,000 people with a 100-piece orchestra behind us. Just incredible. That was an experience and a half, I tell you. But no, we didn't get up to any kind of those capers there. Backstage, there was a lot going on with the orchestra, because they're all mad.
Yes, of course.
All these, the brass section and the string section, they're all nutters, and they're all up on their feet and, waving their violins around in the air. And, it was a fantastic experience. But back at the hotel, nothing like that happened.
Who do you listen to at the moment, when you're not recording and you're not touring? And
well, I don't listen to very much, actually. I've got very kind of... the only time I really listen to anything is in the car. Because at home, for me, it's full on with the kids and stuff,
Yeah.
And living in Spain, we're mostly outside anyway.
Yeah.
We're either swimming or running around the garden playing something, you know. And we tend not to listen to very much at home, to be honest with you, because when the kids go to bed in the evening, me and the missus put the telly on, But in the car, we are big on ABBA at the moment.
Oh, right.
We are very big on ABBA. We're big on the Travelling Wilburys, and we're big on Tom Petty.
So you don't play Michael Holiday then?
No, but I used to love Michael Holiday.
Yeah, do you know you used to suffer from the most awful stage fright?
Yeah, I did hear something about that,
Yeah, and he was at Butlins as well,
Yes.
Fantastic.
Someday I'm going to write the story of my life. Yeah. I loved Michael Holiday. I thought he was great. But I liked David Whitfield as well.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I loved that era. I liked Jim Reeves. I liked Nat King Cole.
Oh.
And you see, I will listen to all that as well.
Yeah.
Only recently I've been listening to all those artists.
Yeah.
And I'll combine that with listening to AC/DC.
Yes.
Who I really rate as well.
Yeah.
And Tom Petty and Fleetwood Mac.
Love them.
That's all my sort of era. That's the sort of stuff I love.
You've been going 45 years with Quo. Do you reckon 50 years you'll make 50 years?
Yeah, I would think so, providing we don't die, because I think that probably is the only thing that would stop us, because it's fairly conclusive, really, when you die, and that's the end.
That is the end, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't see anything else stopping us.
Good.
Francis and I have said over the years, right, let's give it another 5 years and see what happens.
When you think about your routine this year and your touring routine, you're going to Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, Sweden.
You're making me tired.
God, I mean, you really do work hard.
We do.
And when you're on stage, you work hard too, don't you?
We do. That's what we are. That's how we've always done it. That's the kind of band we are. It's not. It doesn't come as a shock to us.
No.
It just doesn't. I mean, that's what we do, and that's how we do it.
What was going through your mind when you were waiting to go on stage in July 1985 for Live Aid?
I was extremely nervous. We'd never played at that time to an audience of 82,000, I think, were there. It was a beautiful day. And I was on the side watching this brass band marching up and down on the stage. And I thought, God, this is just awesome. By that time, I'd got to the stage where I'd become enough of a professional to know how to deal with nerves before you go out to any given audience, Yeah. But to going out to 82,000, opening this thing up worldwide, gave me quite a fright. It was awesome. Loved every second of it.
Do you remember how many people watched it through the world?
Well, 1 billion. It was 1 billions, wasn't it?
1.9 billion people across 150 nations were watching you.
Yeah.
Were you conscious of them? I know you would say you were nervous with the crowd, or slightly nervous with the crowd, but were you conscious of the people watching in sort of Africa or Australia?
I was aware of it about halfway through our set.
Right.
I suddenly became aware of all these cameras down in front of us, you know, and I was just trying to get over the awesomeness of it, getting on there and playing rock and roll over the world, and then you start to relax a little bit, and it did dawn on me, God, how many people are watching this? It did dawn on me. But, I mean, we were on there for 14 minutes, I think it was, and it went past like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. It was just all over before it had begun.
When you look back at your career, what was the actual highlight of your career?
Well, there's been so many, really. I mean, one is tempted to say Live Aid. One is tempted to say the reunion with the Frantic Four that we've just recently done. That was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I look back over the years, I remember when we were first on the radio, when Matchstick Men was played, Brian Matthews played us on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And I was living at home with my parents at the time. And I said, Mum, come in here. We're on the radio. And that was the first time I'd heard myself. And that to me was... And then when my harmony came in, I'm actually singing on the fucking radio. And it was amazing for me. That was an incredible moment. And then doing Top of the Pops. What I'm gonna be on Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
Because I'd watched it for years, you know. Yeah. And suddenly I was going to be on it. That was amazing for me. I must tell you, I mean, one of the charities that we do is the Nordic Robins for autistic children.
Yeah.
And it was a little old tumbled down house in Kentish Town in London. And we did the Nebworth gig, and what a pleasure it was to go out and meet all the, you know, see all the other artists that were on, and go on ourselves to do an hour, you know, and have a thoroughly nice day and go and play for an hour. And everybody says what saints we are, you know. And, well, you know, it doesn't take a lot out of my life to go out and have a nice day and play what I do for an hour to raise all this money. And collectively, between us, I mean, it was a huge amount of money with the DVDs and the spin-offs from it, whatever. And then I remember about, I don't know, a year later, perhaps, going into town and seeing this sparkling new building for these autistic children to learn. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, you know, the Duchess of Fergie was opening it. And Gilmore was there and a few other people, and me and Francis, and you just think, well, I did this. I was part of this. And that was one of the most awesome moments. And I always will be. I went back there recently and saw this building again and thought, well, you know, I helped build this, and that really is the greatest thing you can do.
Well, we can't top that at all.
No, you can't.
Thank you so much, Rick, for being on the show today.
Nice talking to you.
Best of luck with BULA QUO and the film. Love the film. Brilliant. And anybody that hasn't seen them, go and get tickets for their tour. You get onto their website, have a look at all of that. But Rick Parfitt, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to Peter Ross speaking to Rick Parfitt and Francis Rossi of Status Quo. Please search the Peter Ross YouTube channel for more fabulous interviews. Thank you for listening.